it up into games 2 and potentially 3 as well. So a lot going on, but it's time for the final.
We're kicking off the grand finals here of the Salt Lake City Regional Championships between Aaron Traylor and Chongjun Peng, as Aaron does lead off with the Zacian and the Ndidi, and Chongjun, the Zacian, and the Incineroar.
The Incineroar is going to land the important Intimidate, though, down onto the Zacian right after the Intrepid Sword. Ndidi's Psychic Surge is something that Aaron really likes to get set up, just because it means that the Incineroar can't fake out, and you get a little more wiggle room to play the game in turns 1, and potentially later on in the game when, you know, Incineroar can sometimes switch out, switch back in, and then lay down another fake out. So really nicely done. But we saw, of course, Chongjun's Zacian did get the Intrepid Sword boost first, maybe confirming it's a little bit faster there. But the Ndidi able to draw a lot of pressure away with something like the Follow Me. That's always a problem for players who want to lay down that damage, and that could leave Aaron Zacian free to just throw down some attacks. I like Incineroar realizing its use is just the Intimidate for now, and being forced to leave the field.
Incineroar just going away immediately as we do see the Groudon switch in and set the sun. So the Weather Wars have begun as Ndidi goes for the Follow Me to draw away the Zacian's attention, knowing that it is going to be doing more damage than Aaron's Zacian. But let's see how much this Behemoth Blade really can do, as Ndidi does take the hit and it does not survive it. It's a critical hit there for the knockout.
Yeah, not going to be able to take that, but that's Ndidi's job in a lot of instances, is buy a turn and allow a big move to go down. The Sacred Sword into the Groudon, though, really not the amount of damage. Just Aaron probably looking for something to switch in and help out. I like the Kyogre. I've talked about it so many times this weekend. Bring your Kyogre in after the Groudon has shown up, and then you get control of the weather until the Groudon switches out and comes back in. When you're looking over on Chongjun's side of the field, yes, we've seen the Incineroar, but what is the fourth Pokemon? I imagine it has to be a choice between Charizard and Gastrodon. If it's Gastrodon, this is a real easy choice. Bring it in now, get the Storm Drain to eat up that attack, and get your Groudon back in a little bit later. So Aaron, forced down to 3, does limit his switching options, which makes this Kyogre slightly harder to play.
Maybe a little bit, and especially when you think about the speed as well. You know, Aaron's likely not going to want to opt to go for a Water Spout, probably going to take some damage there, but we do see the Kartana switch in, really hoping that, you know, Kartana can stick around, and the Groudon also switching, so Weather Setters going back into their Pokeballs, and here is that Gastrodon. A Play Rough now coming through, connecting onto the Kartana, dealing about 40%, and now it's time for Zacian to dish out another Behemoth Blade here. Aaron Zacian going to go ahead and attack Chongjun Zacian, and that's going to deal a significant chunk.
Yeah, but you can see the Intimidate and just how impactful it is. It means that the Zacian over on Chongjun's side might just be able to take 2 of them. Oh no, I don't think it will, but it's going to be close, whatever it is. I'm not quick enough with my numbers there, and this is so much repositioning from Aaron. He's just not quite getting a grip on the game of what he wants, and Chongjun's just able to start throwing down attacks. There's another set of switches. The Weather Setters switched out in the last turn. This isn't the Weather Setter coming in, though, for Chongjun. He's getting back to that Incineroar, really neutralizing that Zacian so nicely.
Yeah, Aaron Zacian is now at -1 from those 2 Intimidates. The Sacred Sword now into the Kyogre, deals so much damage to it, bringing it below half. And now a Behemoth Blade, once again, targeting down the Zacian. Let's see if it's going to be enough to get the knockout here, and it is not, especially at that -2, or -1.
Not able to get there. The Intimidate, super essential, making sure that there was no damage roll, no variance in there that could cost Chongjun dearly by losing his Zacian. The Kyogre coming in as well and losing half of its health, really not great, taking away the ability to Water Spout. Aaron Zacian has just been suffering all game, throwing out damage, not able to capitalize on it though. The Psychic Terrain still in play does mean the Fake Out isn't an option, but that's not what Incineroar's job is right now. Incineroar's job is just keep throwing down Intimidates on the Zacian and keep the Kyogre in check. With these Sacred Swords, another one would be able to get the knockout.
Aaron recognizes that that Zacian is going to need to have to be reset, putting Kartana out in its place, going for a Protect onto the Kyogre, and it's been so difficult for these players to jockey for position, but we will see the Behemoth Blade connect into the Protect, but the Parting Shot now also coming through onto the Kartana, so Incineroar is still going to be around to continue to neutralize that Zacian.
Incineroar's causing a lot of problems for Aaron. The parting shot there just means, okay, my goal originally was to deal with the Zacian, but now, guess what? I can parting shot and deal with whatever you switch it out for. The Groudon coming right in as well, bringing that drought ability, meaning this Kyogre is pretty much forced to switch out in this turn, and the Kartana, unless it Dynamaxes and can really start turning things around, could be putting itself in a very dicey position. That said, do you want to Dynamax the Kartana after it took that parting shot on the way in? It becomes a much harder decision, and Aaron, of course, with one Pokemon already knocked out, doesn't have the ability to switch both of his Pokemon out. So I really like how Chongjun's been playing this game, just steadily wearing down everything on Aaron's side as he tries to get a foothold in this game. Great use of the Incineroar, consistent use of the Zacian, which hasn't been threatened, by the way, with any Intimidate. Not something that Aaron brought along. He's been able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, Aaron recognizes, though, that it could be now or never, as that Kartana is getting whittled away in HP, and despite the attack drop, is going to Dynamax here, get access to some really powerful max moves.
He can boost back up, though. With the Max Knuckle, he could make up for the Intimidate, or the Parting Shot, but the Intimidate's available to come back in and completely neutralize it. Both trainers Dynamaxing on this turn, though, realizing they have to try and push on. I think the Groudon probably wants to Dynamax to make sure it can eat a Max Overgrowth, if that's what the Kartana decides to throw that way. And that could be really, really important, while it's got control of the weather as well. It doesn't matter, though. The Kartana immediately just taken down by the Sacred Sword.
Yeah, Kartana, unfortunately, not going to be able to move into this game. And now the Groudon is very free here. Origin Pulse in the sun will be able to remove the Zacian, but it leaves that Kyogre vulnerable to whatever attack is incoming from this Groudon. That Max Quake now going through to be able to get those special defense boosts, but more importantly, get the knockout onto the Kyogre. And now all that Aaron has left in this game, number one, is that Zacian.
A Zacian versus 3 Pokemon, one of which has, or 2 of which actually have ground type moves. The Gastrodon available in the back as well. Chongjun's played this game so well. Maximum credit to him. Just controlling the board with Incineroar, controlling the weather with those Groudon switches, and losing the Indeedee early definitely hurt Aaron. Limiting his switching options, didn't get much value out of it either. So something to think about going into game 2, but all credit to Chongjun for the way he's handled the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is such a tough position to be in because it was a lot of repositioning on the board to make sure that you had the right pieces in play, but we will see the forfeit come here. Aaron leading the way with the Incineroar and the Zacian, and for Chongjun, it looks like it is going to be the Zacian and the Gastrodon.
Okay, the Gastrodon right up front to say no to Kyogre. Certainly something that Chongjun wants to lay out on the board, but one change I really like from Aaron is bringing the Incineroar. We got to take a look in the last game at how much Intimidate caused a problem. We got a really good example of that given to us. So why wouldn't Aaron try and do it himself? Now his Zacian, yes, it's slower, but from an attack stat perspective, it's in the advantage. So he can be the one maybe to throw out the Behemoth Blades and the Sacred Swords. That said, Chongjun's Gastrodon probably feeling pretty safe, doesn't see the Kartana yet, could just start throwing out Earth Powers, for example, which is going to be good on either of these targets.
Yeah, but I also really like that, you know, the adjustment from Aaron to be able to bring in the Incineroar as well. You were even calling it, maybe Charizard isn't the play for Chongjun, so you're not necessarily as worried about there being that special attacking a threat as well. But the parting shot comes through just to try to neutralize the Zacian that was there, but it will be the Incineroar instead. And now Aaron gets a chance to make a pivot to something else that might be a bit more advantageous for what the board state looks like right now.
Nicely done by Chongjun, though, to get the Intimidates going onto the Zacian. Obviously, Aaron was trying to take a leaf out of Chongjun's book from game 1, parting shotting into those really frustrating Zacian slots and getting something else after it came in. But Gastrodon throwing out the Yawn means Aaron is going to be forced to keep on switching every single turn. If this Gastrodon does that sort of soft lockout with the Yawn that says he can't stay in and attack me because you're going to go to sleep, that's going to be a real big problem. Getting it on the Kartana of all things, really good news, because the Kartana is the thing that Gastrodon does not want to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a world, though, that, you know, Aaron has been a bit unconventional when it comes to his Dynamaxes, and so seeing the Kyogre switch in now in favor of the Zacian, we will see the rain go up, but maybe you are able to get something like a Max Airstream off before the Kartana is put to sleep, but instead we will see preservation of that Kartana in favor of this Incineroar, bringing it back in. And so the Intimidates are going to come through, and I'm kind of expecting another yawn here from the Gastrodon.
The Gastrodon can keep that slot locked down. Does
Protect
go for the
works
Protect,
too,
though.
just in case.
Did have to respect that play that you were talking about where Kartana just Dynamaxes anyway and goes for it, right? Even a Max Overgrowth going through a Protect is still going to hurt a whole lot. But now these Incineroars are just cycling so nicely with the parting shots. That Intimidate from Aaron's Incineroar really not valuable here, and Chongjun may be in a great position to bring in. There it is, the Groudon that's not going to be intimidated. Of course, without the Indeedee in play, the factor is that, yes, you could fake out, but you also want to be being a little bit proactive on this turn and getting your Kyogre away so you can control the weather later on in the game, I think. And a fake out and a switch, yeah, it's a fine turn, but then you're just giving up a free yawn once again to this Gastrodon, or even something more damaging like an Earth Power. A lot to think about if you're Aaron, and once again, Chongjun's making some switches, but I think he's making less than Aaron, and he's just holding that board position exactly where he wants it at most times.
I really like the Protect from that Gastrodon as well, because, you know, either way, you either put the Kartana to sleep or, you know, you just mitigate some damage. But looks like Chongjun likes his board position now, going to go for a Dynamax here, and it is going to be that Groudon.
The Groudon, again, definitely without the Charizard, an obvious candidate to get Dynamax. The Gastrodon, not a bad competitor either, but the Groudon's in perfect position right now. Doesn't feel scared really of what's going on. The only thing that could be a problem would be the fake out, but that doesn't matter because you're Dynamax now. You just get to start firing off Max Quakes. Good targeting there on the Incineroar, getting rid of that Sugar Berry, but getting the special defense boost most importantly. So even if this Kyogre is forced into attacking in the sun, it's going to do even less damage.
Despite that Sugar Berry as well, that Incineroar is still taking so much. But we will see that this Incineroar is going to use Parting Shot, so this will help to neutralize some of the damage coming out from that Groudon, despite not being able to catch it with the Intimidate. And Aaron, once again, gets to put something else into that slot that might be more advantageous to help out this Kyogre. It's going to be that Zacian.
Needs something offensive. This has got to that point in the game where Chongjun's in a very solid position. He's got control of the weather. He's got his Dynamax in a very nice, safe spot and is just able to start throwing out damage. Aaron needs to put damage down. He's not put any down so far on any of the Pokemon that Chongjun has shown, which is all of his team. Both trainers actually revealing all of their team, so needs to get the damage out. Zacian's obviously a good way to do it. And now Chongjun is faced with a tough decision, I think. Do you leave the Gastrodon in and just try and get stuff dealt with the Yawn, the Gastrodon obviously causing problems for the Kyogre, or do you just pivot quickly to the Incineroar and say, I need the Intimidate on this Zacian immediately?
I think the Intimidate is the right call here, just to be able to help out with the Groudon. So we're going to see that pivot first, but let's see what's going to happen with the Gastro. It does look like it's also going to switch out, and we will see the call and response of the Incineroar to drop the attack of that Zacian as well.
Nicely done by Chongjun, identifying that the Kyogre may leave. You don't need Gastrodon on the field if Kyogre's not there. Get your Incineroar in and get down that Intimidate to neutralize the ability from the Zacian. Does start to go for a Behemoth Blade though. Aaron did need to get some damage down, but look at that. It's just not enough. It's going to be a 3-hit knockout if he keeps going with that route. And while he's trying to do that, he's going to get hit with Max Quakes.
Yeah, Incineroar now is going to be knocked out for Aaron, which means that you really only have 3, well, you still have 3 big offensive threats, but you don't have the ability to really be able to mitigate that damage now incoming from Chongjun's team.
No, Chongjun is just going to be able to throw attacks down, and with the speed advantage on his Zacian, if that comes back in, he's going to be able to really clean up with it, I think. There's no speed control, once again, from Aaron brought to this game, and he's just struggling. This Groudon being left largely uncontested. Even the Behemoth Blade not bringing it below half. I don't imagine there's a world where he's going to be able to get a knockout this following turn. And to make it worse, there's the potential to just get Parting Shot as well. So the Zacian would get stuck on the field. Aaron's back into a very similar position as Game 1, where his pivots are so limited. Now he's lost a Pokemon early, or earlier than his opponent at least. and those pivots and switches could be punished. The Kyogre coming in, though, does regaining control of the weather. That could be huge, but that's 2 max Quakes, so this Groudon's still feeling pretty good. And, of course, the Incineroar has access to Fake Out this time.
Yeah, now on top of that, too, there's still that threat of the Gastrodon in the back for Chongjun, so it doesn't really make it safe to go for something like a Water Spout. This is still going to be a pretty tough position, but I believe in the ability that Aaron's team has to be able to deal damage, and that Groudon is going to be quite low. But maybe you can also read into that a little bit if we do see a bit of a switch, but we will see the Fake Out go into the Kyogre. Kyogre is going to have to take that chip damage. And now Zacian going for another Behemoth Blade, really hoping this time to be able to take out this target. Groudon, once again, going to be taking damage, but still not enough to be able to finish it off.
No, not going to get there, and that turn bought with Fake Out is capitalized on by Chongjun. Going for the Max Flare, yes, it's super effective. Yes, it's also in the rain, so the damage is limited, but that Kyogre switch in to control the weather, immediately taken away from it by smart use of the Max Flare in the final turn of the game. Of course, the Kyogre now, the Groudon, sorry, much lower, able, of course, to get easily knocked out, but it does sort of force the Kyogre, if it wants to end the game in its preferred weather. It's forcing the Kyogre out once again and coming back. But getting the damage down on Groudon, I think, is really important.
Well, the other thing is, if I'm not mistaken, Adam, I think Aaron still has Dynamax available.
He does.
So that could be a very good way to maintain control of the weather, or just be able to ensure that you have a large amount of damage if you are able to remove the Incineroar, or at least remove one of the bigger threats on the team coming in from Chongjun.
The use of Dynamax is going to be Aaron's way back into the game. If he can get the Kartana in safely, and maybe Dynamax that, get some max airstreams going to deal with that Zacian that Chongjun has in the back, that could be huge. It was in the back, now it's back out onto the field of play, but it's going to start applying pressure, and the problem is you need a little bit of time. You need to get something like the Kartana in, and that's really tough to do when you're facing down a Zacian, which is just going top speed, throwing down damage every single time.
Another double switch here from Chongjun to be able to just kind of change the board state around. That Gastrodon is going to receive a special attack boost from the Water Spout, but Zacian is still going to take some of that damage.
It's going to get hurt a little bit, but I'd say it's still pretty healthy, and it doesn't need much health to move first and throw down a big attack like a Behemoth Blade or a Sacred Sword. So feeling pretty good in Chongjun's shoes right now. Knows, of course, it's going to win that, but the Pokemon advantage is going to be essential as well. Being able to switch around a little bit more, finally get to see the Dynamax out of Aaron, getting control of the board a little bit more with those secondary effects will be his way back into this game.
Here comes the Dynamax Kyogre, and what I'm really excited to see is what does Aaron decide to go for in terms of the max moves here with that Gastrodon on the field.
The move choice is absolutely essential here to see what he can do. Of course, you're going to have to be taking attacks first from the Zacians. We'll get to the Kyogre in a minute.
Chongjun, Zacian dishing out an immense amount of damage from that Behemoth Blade, but Sacred Sword will bring Chongjun Zacian to about half of the max. Lightning here should go into the Zacian and be able to clean it up, and more importantly, set the electric terrain in case Gastrodon wants to go for yawns.
I'm glad Aaron set that up, because the Gastrodon sort of looking to maybe try and close out the game with the yawns. There's one of them, and it's not going to matter because of the electric terrain. You don't even get to connect the first part of the move, let alone the sleep on the following turn. I think Aaron's just made a very big pivot to potentially get back in this game. Now, the fastest thing on the field is his Zacian. He's also got the Kartana in the back. I love that choice of the Max Lightning. So well done. And this Kyogre, it's not worried about its health anymore because it's going probably for Max Geyser. We'll be able to control the weather a little bit better. Aaron's really opened the door for himself right here.
Yeah, this is absolutely a good position to be in right now. But it still remains to be seen how much this Kyogre is going to be able to get done. That Gastrodon still poses a bit of a problem, and without being able to get in his own Kartana to deal with that Gastrodon, you have given over to it a +1 attack boost.
Absolutely, and I think, honestly, if you're Aaron, as wild as it sounds, you probably just want the Zacian to get knocked out here. If you're Chongjun, don't give him that. I know you don't want to take the damage, but just be so careful. If you let that Kartana come in, that Kartana is just going to Leaf Blade your Gastrodon away. Of course, the Gastrodon could buy some time, potentially, but, you know, the Zacian's just getting intimidated, and Chongjun does want to leave it on the field, I think. Just getting intimidated, getting whittled down, and on a very treacherously low amount of health. The Zacian just going for it, and gets the Groudon on the way in.
Yeah, that's a great show there.
Oh.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough to be able to knock it out. And now, Gastrodon can fire back with an Earth Power, but this does give Aaron that free switch into the Kartana. And Chongjun also does not get a free switch into the Incineroar.
This Kyogre is right now walled out of the game. It can't do anything with its max moves on its third turn of Dynamax. It's got Origin Pulse and Water Spout, which are going to turn, obviously, into the max move for Water, which is going to get redirected. Then you've got Max Lightning available, and that's not going to hit either of these ground types. So this final turn is, of course, you know, really null and void. The Kartana needs to knock out the Gastrodon before the
Kyogre can
the
move.
Kyogre is really able to do anything in this turn. Max Geyser would, of course, be the preferred option to wrap this game up. But the Kartana's not Dynamax, and the Gastrodon can just protect as well. So a lot of decision-making here for Aaron. I think if Aaron can target down the right things, you know, let's say the Gastrodon does protect, he's got to go after the Groudon, but it doesn't protect.
First, Gastrodon gets knocked out here by a Leaf Blade, which leaves the door wide open for this Kyogre to fire off an attack, and that Beast Boost as well, bringing Kartana to +1, and it is the Max Geyser. It will connect onto the Groudon here, bringing Chongjun down to his final Pokemon in this game number 2. It will be that Incineroar that has to switch in.
The Incineroar has to switch in the rain against a Kartana and a Kyogre. I don't really see much out for this. The pivotal turn was Aaron committing to the Dynamax Kyogre. Absolutely love that. The Max Lightning, getting that electric terrain up, taking away the Gastrodon's ability to yawn things and cause problems that way, is going to be sending us a really good set. So nicely done for Aaron. Of course, there's Fake Out this turn that he has to worry about, but a double protect, you're fine. Doesn't matter. He's going to be able to land an attack on the Incineroar anyway, and there's no way Incineroar has the damage to deal with this.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick forfeit there from see these leads and how this concludes as Aaron leads with Zacian and Indeedee, and we will see Chongjun choose the Zacian and the Incineroar.
Aaron going back to the game 1 lead that definitely didn't quite work out for him. Must feel that there's a different line of play available with the Indeedee in this one, or very keen to make sure that the Psychic Surge goes up and sort of limits the options available for that Incineroar. But this looks just like game number 1. Chongjun has the Intimidate down, took away the boost that Zacian got on the way in, or is taking it away now. I'm a little bit ahead of myself there. And again, you know, Aaron's trailer is now doing less damage and moving slower than Chongjun's. I'm hoping he's got an answer for it somewhere in the back, because otherwise it could run away and take a really big advantage early on.
There's so, I mean, Indeedee has so much utility though as well, besides just, you know, the follow me that we have seen it for. Maybe it is going to just set the terrain and also leave the field. But, you know, this is definitely going to be another slow-played game. We don't have the explosive pressure of the Charizard and the Groudon combination that Chongjun has relied upon in so many matches previous. And if the first 2 games are any indicator, it's still going to continue to be switches around the board until somebody starts to feel comfortable. So, wait a minute here, though. Indeedee is going to stick on the field as the Gastrodon moves in, and that Helping Hand is really going to be able to power up the next move coming out from Aaron Zacian, but not before it is going to take a bit of damage on its own. But is the damage on the return going to be enough? It's the Sacred Sword into the Gastrodon.
Not what you wanted when you were Aaron. You wanted that to land on the Incineroar, the Helping Hand, of course, to make up for the Intimidate and get that extra damage down. So a lovely switch from Chongjun, seeing that as a potential option. And now the Zacian matchup, the mirror is so heavily weighted in Chongjun's favor. He's not taking any damage on his. He's still at full attack. He's feeling really, really good about it. And, you know, I think if Aaron had targeted down the opposing Zacian, could have been a little bit closer, but Chongjun has his Zacian at full health, top speed, could easily tidy up Aaron Zacian in this following turn.
It almost forces Aaron into a position to either switch out the Zacian or to go for something like a follow me to make sure that it can get off the second attack. But then you are also a bit vulnerable to whatever this Gastrodon decides to throw at you. Or if anything just decides to switch. So many questions need to be answered here, but it's just going to be attacks across the board. Chongjun Zacian moving first, but it's going into the Ndidi, not targeting down Aaron Zacian, and that means that Ndidi will hang on just a little bit as Zacian goes for another Sacred Sword into the Gastrodon.
Not getting damage down.
And Ndidi safeguarding here against something that might be coming out from this Gastro, which is going to be the Yawn!
Aaron's team says no to sleep. Electric terrain from the Max Lightning, being able to set up the safeguard, nicely done by Aaron. And now this Gastrodon is forced to play the game a little bit differently, right? Gastrodon has to really start going after things with its attacks. Of course, both the Pokemon on Aaron's side of the field are getting dangerously low on health. The Ndidi just clinging on. Little different to game one, didn't get critical hit, was able to take that attack from Zacian, but his Pokemon are low, and that's a concern if you're Aaron, right? The Ndidi could easily get felled by the Zacian. The Zacian, as we've seen, isn't outputting enough damage to really be a concern. And to guarantee at least one attack, you have to follow me with the Ndidi, which means you can't Helping Hand, which means your damage output is just low.
Yeah, here comes the follow me. Going to redirect at least this Zacian's attack. So here comes the Behemoth Blade. Will be plenty to knock out this Ndidi, but I feel like Ndidi has got the job done. The Psychic Terrain is set, the Safeguard is up. And so it can go down a champion, also eating a critical hit on the way out as well.
That's the second time it's been a critical hit by the Zacian on the other side. Zacian on Aaron's side, though, pivoting over to the Behemoth Blade. No more Sacred Sword, and finally getting some damage down on Chongjun Zacian.
Yeah, I mean, at this point as well, you just want to try to get as much damage in as possible. That Gastrodon and that Zacian are so low.
Yep.
So despite Aaron losing 2 Pokemon here, he does get 2 free switches into his final 2, and these Pokemon on the other side are quite low.
That's what I was worried about for Aaron, was he's gonna lose both his Pokemon in this turn. Once you take away the Gastrodon's ability to yawn and play that game, you force it into attacks, and one of those attacks being Earth Power just easily deals with the Zacian, which was taking hits early doors. This now forces a pair of Pokemon off the field, the final 2 for Aaron Trailer, and that means that this is his only opportunity to set up Drizzle, unless he goes for Max Geysers, which he can't do right now, because the Gastrodon can maybe buy some time to avoid those. It could be a bit of a problem. You know, if that Groudon's in the back, that Groudon's going to come in, set Drought, and just say absolutely not to this Kyogre. That said, the Kartana's in, they're both full health, and what really matters here, and what I would be shocked if I didn't see, is Aaron has to Dynamax, he has to make the right choice for Dynamax, and be able to capitalize on it so well. So the Kartana Dynamaxes can easily deal with that Gastrodon, can deal with the Groudon as well with the Max Overgrowth, but you're leaving the Zacian unchecked, and the Zacian can just start wailing on the Kartana. You then need your Kyogre to be able to put down enough damage to deal with this Zacian. There's the Dynamax. It's the Beast Ball, so it's Kartana getting the Dynamax in this game, and that is, in my opinion, the right decision. Aaron relying on this Pokemon to sweep through 4, alongside the help of Kyogre, but mainly the Kartana, sweeping through Chongjun's team.
Well, before Aaron is really going to be able to make a move, well, no, it looks like the Kyogre is going to protect first, but you know, I think that's really smart just in case you want to go for something else. But the Play Rough also going into the Protect here, which is going to leave Chongjun wide open. A Max Airstream now going through, and that's going to help out immensely despite the Gastrodon hanging on.
It does hang on, but it does now mean that the Kartana is faster than this Zacian, and a big boost for the Kyogre is going to help out as well. The Earth Power into that Kartana doesn't really do that much damage, and of course this Gastrodon just hanging on. Speed boost, really, really nice. That's what Aaron talked about in his interview earlier. Now he's going to be able to control the speed, and even though Kyogre's damage output is about to get a little bit limited, if the Groudon comes in and sets up the Sun with Drought, I just like this Kartana going fast, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that Max Airstream is so big because you should be faster than the Zacian now, and now you have so much more utility to work with, as you know that you have your last 2 Pokemon remaining. Those speed boosts are going to stick as long as your Pokemon are still alive to do the job. and that Gastrodon is so low that that one piece of the puzzle could be completely removed here. Max Knuckle to be able to go in to finish the job onto the Gastrodon, get that +1 and that beast boost.
Yep, a double boost there for the Kartana. If the Kartana can make it through this turn, then it can deal with the Zacian in the following turn. That's not really the concern. But of course, this is the Pokemon. It's got a sweep, and it's getting itself in the position to do that. A speed boost, attacks boost. Kyogre, single target water spout, still in the rain. With the boost, just deals with the Zacian. Now it's forced into the Incineroar and the Mystery Fourth from Chongjun. The weirdness has disappeared from Battlefield, which means Fake Out is an option, but it's not an option on the Kartana next turn, and I guarantee you, that Kartana is the fastest thing on the field, and it's got the highest attack on the field. This is looking real good for Aaron right now. Does just need to make sure that he can navigate this Groudon. Kyogre, step aside. This is now the Kartana show.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if we wanted to see something from the Incineroar, maybe it is going to be something like a Flare Blitz, potentially. You know, Fake Out could come in, Protect could come in from the Kyogre, though, and Weather has been given over to Chongjun.
It has, but it's really not the Kyogre's fight anymore. I think it's all about this Kartana, making sure the targeting is right. A Max Overgrowth after a +2. Oh, now +1 because of the Intimidate, but that's still a boosted Max Overgrowth, and that is a little bit scary if you ask me. Of course, Chongjun does have access to the Dynamax to round out this game. It's going to be the Groudon. That makes so much sense. And this Groudon needs to get through the next couple turns. Aaron's not afraid either in the sun to just keep attacking with the Kyogre. And if you leave the Kyogre alone, those bits of damage are going to add up.
I know, but you have to remember that there are 2 Pokemon on the field that do get access to super effective fire type attacks, but it's the Max Overgrowth from this Kartana at +1 into the Groudon, and it is not going to be enough to knock it out just yet. You do set up the grassy terrain for potential return attacks, but it is going to come down to what this Groudon decides to do. The Max Flare now coming out into the Kartana, and unfortunately, Kartana is going to go down to that.
Chongjun set himself up so well. I was wondering how much impact the Intimidate would have, taking away that +2, and it's just not enough. The Max Overgrowth needed to knock out the Groudon there, or
bring it low enough, potentially.
The Incineroar needed to not fake out the Kyogre. The Kyogre needed to follow up with something in that turn as well, and without that happening, Chongjun has put himself in pole position to take this one. Kyogre is going to fight back, though. Not enough.
Not quite enough here to be able to knock it out, so now Groudon gets to go for a Max Quake into this Kyogre, and that should be plenty of HP there for that Incineroar to be able to make the final move. Special defense boost going across the board, just in case. But the Darkest Lariat now to come out from Chongjun Peng to finish off this Kyogre and become your Salt Lake City Regional Champion.
Chongjun held that back pairing for so long and played it so nicely. He knew once he got Aaron down to his last 2 Pokemon, he was always going to be in the driving seat because he was going to have control of the weather, and it's been harped on all weekend. If you're the Groudon player, you've got to get that Groudon last, in my opinion. You always want to have the access to Drought, and as soon as he took that weather away from Aaron, he forced him to be relying on one Pokemon, which he could easily deal with Max Flares, Flare Blitzes. So many options he had to deal with it. Really nicely played day by Aaron. Took a game off Chongjun, which is definitely an achievement in itself. A fantastic second.